Okay, so I gotta start this video off by saying that I am not an expert at this. I am not a coach or anything even close to it. I can't even hit plat in solo queue or win clashes recently. But I think this is a fun exercise to analyze the draft and figure out what I would have done differently to maybe let TL have a better chance at winning the game right off the bat. So first we have to give context. This is a Game 5 situation. Winner going to Chicago and Worlds, loser going home. This is massive as both teams have spent a lot of money on these rosters, in the millions even, and it is important for their org that they go. So, as a 5-game series, what were the previous 4 games? So we know what the general vibes have been, especially because drafting a 5-game series often relies that you adapt and change as the series goes on. Well, in Game 1, EG takes it by getting JoJo and Impact fed, meaning that in most fights, Hans Sama's Jinx was poked out of the fight even before it began. In Game 2, TL struck back by having Hans Sama play Seraphine, and then getting Bjerg fed for taking big damage Taliyah plays. In Game 3, Team Liquid again gets Hans Sama fed, and Bjerg follows up with some more big Taliyah plays. In Game 4, Danny picks the Misfortune, and Impact gets fed on Gangplank, meaning that a simple MFE and Gangplank ult almost kills Jinx or forces Flash from her. So what are TL and EG's win cons so far in this series, so we can build off of them when building a draft later on. TL has had one big win con. Get Hans Sama fed on Jinx or Seraphine, and win off the back of him and Bjerg, doing major damage with Santorin and Bwipo acting as engage and core appealing for Hans Sama. EG's win cons are a little different though. In Game 1, they won by getting Impact and JoJo fed. Stack that on top of a bad draft off of TL that has no damage except for Hans Sama's Jinx, and they were set for success. In Game 4, EG wins off of getting Impact fed on GP, being able to kill/force sums off of Hans Sama's Jinx using their poke damage. So to summarize, in most games this series, TL wants to keep Hans Sama alive while putting Bjerg on a damaging carry mid laner, mainly Taliyah, to win games. Evil Geniuses, on the other hand, want to find ways onto Hans Sama and Bjerg to kill them or poke them out. Keep these in mind while I'm going over the draft. Okay, so to start, TL bans Zeri, GP, and Azir. These are really solid bans in my opinion, seeing as Blue Side currently is more flexible in bans and you don't have to worry about your enemy getting Kalista if you don't ban it, as you can first pick him. TL knows that Danny Zeri is killer, and they don't want to handshake the Zeri Sivir pick. Team's been doing this to Danny recently and it's been working pretty effectively. They also got domed by the GP and Azir earlier in the series, so it makes sense to ban those. Azir popped off with JoJo on it, and GP popped off in games 1 and 4 with Impact on it. Draft is going well so far. EG are forced to ban the Kalista because it's basically permabanned right now, because the strength of the champion is really high and you can play extremely aggressively from an AD carry position. EG understands that Hans Sama is TL's win condition, so it makes sense to ban the Kalista. They also banned Sivir because TL didn't want to handshake the Sivir Zeri matchup, so you have to ban the other side of it to make sure that TL can't first pick the Sivir and put you in a bad position. This is also obviously a ban against Danny's small ADC pool. This takes away from it. Danny now is working with less. Danny played a paltry 6 AD carries in the Summer Championship, and that's really low. So with 4 bot lane picks off the table, with Zeri, Kalista, Sivir, and Seraphine all banned, it's really cutting into Danny's ADC pool. The only ones that are still up that he's been known to play are Senna and Ezreal. He also played MF at this point, so. EG then finishes off their bans with Seraphine, and seeing that Hans Sama dumpstered them in Game 2 with it, it seems like a good ban, especially with so many ADCs off the table. This has definitely squeezed Danny's champ pool again, but we saw him play Jinx earlier on in the series, and we know he can also play Senna. The Misfortune is also up if Evil Geniuses want to take the Misfortune Jinx matchup again, which seemed to work well for them last game. Okay, so for round 1 picks, TL snagged Trundle. Trundle is Santorin's god champion, as in summer he had 8 games on them, won 75% of them, and had a ban versus him multiple times. Trundle is also a great frontliner if paired with another semi-tank on the side of TL. EG responds twofold in their second round. First with the Poppy, second with the Sylas. The Poppy pick is interesting with Wukong up, but it's pretty coin flip right now on what junglers think is better, and TL already having shown their jungle, I think it's an okay pick, as Poppy can often duel the Trundle in early levels if Inspired's playing it smart. Also, Poppy has a little bit more of an impact past just her ult. Now having mirrored the jungle pick, it's time for EG to show something new. That is Sylas. Sylas is pretty blind pickable mid right now, and JoJo's looked pretty good on it throughout the year. It's his most played champion of all time with 19 pro games played on it, so it's obvious that he's comfortable on it. And in game 5 of his series that you need to win to go to Worlds, comfort is pretty important. TL then proceed to hover Draven but lock in Jinx and follow up with the Lulu. I honestly don't know why they wouldn't have picked Draven here. If you're really looking to do stuff, Draven's really nice, but I also understand seeing a Poppy Sylas on the enemy team shows that they're kind of willing to dive you, and having a Draven on your team might not be the best pick here. Draven is good, but only into certain picks, so it makes sense that if you're looking to blind your bot laner right now, Jinx might be the better pick. Lulu is there to cover up with some peel for the Jinx, and it's kind of troll, I think. So you know that the enemy Sylas is going mid Sylas, as Sylas hasn't been top in a while, and picking your bot lane here just isn't really super crucial. I think TL has gone kind of all in on the Funnel Hans Sama idea here, so picking a Jinx Lulu is okay if you don't want to pick up one piece of the puzzle and let the other get banned. But CoreJJ's champ pool is pretty much an ocean, and although Lulu is good, I don't think it's necessary to win this game. Plus now you've pigeonholed Bjerg into picking after the second ban phase, meaning that he's probably being banned out. Bjerg hasn't exactly been playing a lot of stuff this summer, and he hasn't really looked good on a lot of stuff. His most played champions are Azir, Swain, Ahri, and Taliyah, and he's got 9, 5, 4, and 4 games on them respectively. Now, the Azir's already been banned, and you know that 2 more of those are going to be taken off the table. Most likely as well, your Zillion's going to be banned because there's no way that EG is going to let your most famous champion through the pick ban phase here. But you could have picked Zilean right here. That being said, Sylas with a Zilean ult is pretty nice, so we can't count that out of the equation. EG, now seeing what the enemy bot lane is, lock in the Misfortune, as it worked last time with Vulcan's Bard. We now have a mismatched draft with TL not picking a mid yet and Evil Geniuses not having picked a support. The difference is that the meta mid lane pool is a little smaller than the support pool, so Team Liquid definitely lost on that front if you don't want your lanes to get banned out. And both teams haven't picked a top laner yet, and power picks like Ornn and Sejuani are still open. Although with Santorin already having picked the Trundle, it would be trolling to pick either of those on EG's side, seeing as it would give Trundle a major power boost. Alright, ban phase 2. TL proceed to target Vulcan's champion Ocean with both a ban on Bard and Nautilus. These are okay bans, but I think focusing Impact's champ pool might be better, as you're going to get counterpicked on that front, as EG are not going to save their support pick for last pick, especially with the Lulu already picked on TL's side round 1 because of the mismatched picks. Banning Gnar and Renekton might have given you a better chance topside, although Bwipo is definitely not the reason TL lost this game, although he wasn't exactly a reason why they might have been able to win. EG respond with Ornn and Zilean, both great bans. Currently with the MF pick, they have no way to burst their tanks easily, and Ornn is the mega tank, who would give Jinx a ton of frontline and a lot of CC. Plus, it's Bwipo's best champion this summer. The Zilean ban is as good as it is because Bjerg has it as this massive pocket pick, and game 5 clutcher for both him and Jensen. We've seen it run out a couple times now, and I don't think they've really lost on it. Now this final rotation is where a lot of my questions really show up. EG gets a single pick and they lock in Rakan. Perfect. Now they have really solid teamfight dive, or they have a really solid teamfight and dive comp focused on letting JoJo and Danny free fire and get good engages off of your Poppy, your Sylas, and your Rakan. TL basically have no engage drafted so far, and their counter engage is limited to Lulu ult, which needs to be saved for the Jinx, or the Trundle pillar, which is on a long cooldown. So TL can now pick their mid and top. You're going to either want to look for engage, so you can get the upper hand on EG here, or counter engage. First, the hover of Taliyah for Bjerg. I really like this. Taliyah can stifle the Rakan and Sylas engages by using your E so they can't dash on it. It also gives JoJo a somewhat useless ult to grab with Sylas. And on top of that, Taliyah gives Team Liquid some long-range poke damage, which they are sorely lacking in this comp. It gives them a little bit of control around Dragon as well, as Taliyah should be able to push out the wave before before Sylas can, giving him early rotations. But at the last second, they lock Galio for Beard. I understand what they're trying to do here. Galio's taunt is a huge way to stifle engages and lock down potential all-ins. On top of it, it gives them a way to engage with the Galio E and another way to protect Hans Sama, which they thought was their win con for the series. Except, remember when I talked about win cons earlier? I lied! Game 2 for TL was not actually a Hans Sama carry. It was actually a Beard carry on the Taliyah, as Hans Sama was playing Seraphine, a more supportive character. As shown in the Poachmaster breakdown here, Taliyah is doing most of the damage, and actually Hans had looked meddling on the Jinx in every game so far except for game 3, in which Beard was also on Taliyah and also putting out pretty massive damage numbers. So I put Beard on Galio. Well, I think I have an idea, and they had just lost the previous game where Beard is on Taliyah as well, and he didn't look really good on it, so I can understand why you might not want to be running the Taliyah. But unlike last game, JoJo is on Sylas, not Victor, and the only other time JoJo has played the Sylas-Taliyah matchup, he lost, and that was game 2. So I don't see why Team Liquid would have cold feet for this. In addition to all of that, it now makes it even more important for your Jinx to pop off in fights and not get blown up, as your sole damage source is now your Jinx, and whatever you pick for your top laner now. TL rounds out their draft with an Aatrox, which I think fits relatively well into their comp, and while it's not Bwipo's most impressive champion this season, I have seen a lot of Aatroxes do extremely well, and especially into a relatively squishy comp that EG's running, it might do decent. If you can get onto EG's backline with a good flank, which Bwipo doesn't really do in the game. He has a couple moments where he can kill the MF, but Danny's not really doing most of the damage in this game. JoJo is. And that Aatrox isn't gonna ever take down that Sylas, especially if Sylas either takes Trundle ult or Aatrox ult. I wonder if a set might have been a better pick here, but they may not have wanted to coin flip the game over that, as Bwipo had been trounced on it by CLG's Dokla's Renekton in a previous series, and with Renekton still up, it was a no-brainer for the EG squad to take it. Renekton's pretty good into Aatrox, both of them being manaless bruisers, so they can kind of just tank waves and farm forever, and there's not really kill pressure because of Renekton's dash and Aatrox's dash. Also, with the Renekton kind of being a little tanky and allowing for backline access onto hands, it fits really solidly into EG's draft and really emphasizes their win con of killing Hans Sama, especially now that Beard is no longer on a carry. So, now that we're done with the draft and we've seen the end result, what could have changed for the TL draft? I think it's pretty simple. First, don't pick the Galio. Go with Taliyah instead. I think the hover was the correct move here, as Taliyah gives you extra damage and allows for someone else to win fights if the Rakan or Renekton tunnel the other side of your backline, aka Hans Sama, which they did most of the time because Hans Sama was the only person you needed to kill to win the fights. In addition, run Sejuani as your 5th pick. Then EG can't break through your front line, and the best ult they can steal is maybe a Trundle ult or Sejuani ult and place it on your Sedge. Sedge also gives you more of a front line, so even if they do take the Sejuani ult, your Sedge can tank it. In addition, the Sejuani running the TP Ignite means that your support Lulu can run heal to further help the Jinx stay alive in fights, instead of needing to run the Ignite to throw it on Sylas for the anti-heal. Lulu can also then maybe not run anti-heal as their second item and can go for something like an Arna Sensor instead. Well, TL's play definitely left something to be desired in the last game. Them not realizing the double TP was definitely a fluke on their part. I think the draft can somewhat be blamed here for their loss. They have a lack of flexibility, with Bwipo not wanting to play Sejuani for some insane reason. It's one of the best champions in the meta right now for top lane, as it's a tank that does damage and can clear waves, and does relatively well into picks like Aatrox and Renekton. So why they're not willing to play it, but he's willing to play something like Gragas, is pretty insane to me. It's pretty clear that TL's weaknesses have overshadowed their strengths, and it's going to be a problem when they're building their team next year. Anyway, that's my analysis of the TLEG draft. If you liked it, if you could hit a like and a subscribe button. I don't normally do this stuff, but I did it this time just because I thought it'd be an interesting kind of look, and because I was really frustrated by this draft. I'm not even a Team Liquid fan. I just was so frustrated for Team Liquid fans with this draft that I was like, I gotta go at least help these people. It's a little sad. Anyway, that's all I got for you.